Okay, this is the fifth video, sorry, for part 1, chapter 3. As of today, it is assumed that a tetraploid of human genome never existed. There is no evidence of that ever happening. It would be interesting if you asked me to see what kind of creature would evolve from that. Okay, so at this point of the presentation, we are talking about natural selection, and natural selection is probably evolution's strongest force that makes sure that only essential genes are conserved. But here's the question. There's a bit of a contradiction, because we just said that so much of DNA is either misunderstood, does not have any part right now, all those deserts, pseudogenes. So of course that's resolved extremely easily. We're talking about active genes, okay, or potentially active genes. So even the pseudogenes should be in there, and if natural selection was obsolete, pseudogenes theoretically should be deleted, but they're not, and that's a great hint that they might become active. And we also talked about transposons that move from one place to another and sometimes become active genes. So we really can't determine at this point why they were conserved, but we know that some are conserved, and we understand that they have a role to play through evolution. Mutations occur randomly, right? And affecting locally the ORFs and the proteins, correct? And some mutations are actually conserved through evolution. So that means that natural selection, in a case of a negatively affecting mutation, might actually sometimes miss it. Okay, so you're referred to a movie, please see it. So basically, conserved damaging mutations are competing only with evolution, right? Such mutations are believed to be eliminated during evolution. They are regarded as temporary mutations. Temporary because they're here right now, but in a million years, 20 million years, they're supposed to be deleted. It is assumed that when a gene becomes non-essential, it will accumulate mutations until it is unrecognizable. Okay, because the active genes are supervised and maintained, right, and repaired much more than others. By definition, an essential gene means that the lack or the deletion of that gene should mean the death of the organism. It also means that the homozygote new mutation is lethal, right? So you know what a homozygote is, you know what a new mutation is, and the combination means that if that gene is essential, it codes for an essential protein that has an essential function, and without it, we're supposed to die. One way of knowing the nature of a gene regarding is it essential or not is by deliberately introducing a new mutation of the homozygote, meaning we can take other species and organisms, deliberately engineer them to have the homozygote new mutation and see if the organism dies or not. Okay, makes sense. The relationship between the size of a genome and essential genes is actually a reverse one. So the bigger the genome, the less essential genes you're going to have. Kind of like luxury in a way. So when we examine genes according to function, we see that the highest percentage of essential genes are related to protein synthesis. Okay, so that means that protein synthesis is actually a major process of great importance. Haploids have a greater percentage of conserved genes and essential genes, while duplication may hold advantages and disadvantages for diploids, right? Because the idea that you're duplicating genes, what if you're duplicating hazardous genes, or just duplicating genes that have no effect? You're just enlarging the genome, and a larger genome means more mutations that are possible. So there's a risk with that. We find that common functions, those who are used by the cell on a day-to-day basis, have a better chance of being conserved. And that makes sense. I mean, let's imagine things that you have at your home right now. The things that you use on a daily basis, you're reluctant to throw away, right? But if you have something that you kind of use one every 10 years, and you start thinking, should I save this? Should I accumulate this? It's taking up space. I barely use it. Maybe I can sell it, get money for it, right? So theoretically, the same logic goes through evolution, and we find out that evolution conserves functions that are used on a daily basis. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the next thing we'll talk about is what we call bands of DNA. And bands of DNA are a way of better understanding lethal sites and the ratio between bands and essential genes. So 1,300 genes in the human genome have been identified as defect causing. And the term defect causing includes lethal genes, but also non-lethal genes that lead to a disease or a defect but don't kill you, right? One of the things that we don't know is how many mutations have existed in the past, or even in your lifespan, but have led to death. So, for instance, when someone loses a fetus, a baby, not yet born human being, how many mutations that are lethal exist and have led to that sad result. And that means that theoretically we might have lethal mutations that we never have the option to identify and study and understand. some genes have alternative genes to fulfill the same function. Um, so even if that gene is essential, there's an alternative gene that will take care of the same function, and that means that even if that gene is deleted, you're not going to see any effect. So only if you knock out, and knockout is actually a term used, only the knockout of all those alternative genes will result in some kind of outcome, and you'll learn how essential that gene is. So let's say a gene was deleted and you see no outcome. Don't be so hasty to say, okay, it wasn't essential, because according to the logic that we've presented until now, an essential gene, if it's deleted, leads to death. But what if the situation is more complex regarding that function, and you actually have alternative genes that take care of the same function? In that case, you'll be concluding something that is completely wrong, right? In addition, a question is, how do you define essential besides if it leads to death or not? Is every term relatively to time and evolution? Okay, so is there a grand plan? A grand plan that takes millions and billions of years, and something that we just decided is not essential right now is going to be essential in 30,000 years. 30 million years, sorry, I apologize. So, that question keeps coming up of anything that we say relatively to evolution, and then the whole the units, the comprehension, and the way that we interpreted things must be a lot more cautious. So I hope you understand that. Okay, you're referred to a movie, enjoy the movie. What about success by numbers? Meaning that exactly like in a herd, the survival of the individual depends on the size of the herd, right? So even we sometimes, you're going back home from a party, it's late at night, you're afraid to go by yourself. So you see herds of people walking around, groups of friends or people of some kind of common issue between them, and you feel safer, right? And it's happened. Gangs, teams, armies, they all work on the success by number idea. So is it smart to delete genes while the success by numbers idea might work? And I'll explain it even further. Let's say theoretically that the situation was the opposite, and you would have 10 times more pseudo genes than active genes. The chance of having a mutation that could have been lethal in a pseudo gene would be greater than in an active gene. So by deploying those decoys, so to speak, you're decreasing the chances of a lethal mutation in an active gene. Of course, just a reminder that that's not the right ratio, but the idea is the same idea. Okay, so we're looking at genes, and we have non-essential genes, and once again I have to be very accurate and say they seem to be non-essential as of now, right? That would be fair to say. And we have essential genes. And in the essential genes, as of now, we can find three sub groups. Defective, right? Meaning that they lead to some kind of defect in function. It can be important or not. Lethal, and none of those, right? So that's basically the three options. All right, we're going to stop now and continue in the next video.